Nothing in life is random. When a soul begins to wonder about its own origin, when the eyes gaze into the sky without seeking an answer, when the heart suddenly falls silent before a sunset, it is not confusion, but the signal of a door opening. Not outward, but inward. A point of transition is taking place, not because you've learned something new, but because you're beginning to remember something you've never truly forgotten. There exists a stream of knowledge older than all religions, predating every doctrine, even language itself. It belongs to no nation, claims no master. It is like breath, invisible but essential, like light, always present, but only seen when you turn toward it. This stream of knowledge has been called by many names throughout history: the light, the inner flame, the eternal current of life. But here, it is given a simple name, the 33rd degree of knowledge. But that number is not a ranking. It doesn't represent power. It is a symbol of return, when a soul has wandered through enough experiences, endured enough fragmentation, and faced enough disconnection to finally find its way back to unity. Ancient wisdom does not speak in words. It speaks through states of being. It does not arrive as a teacher, but as a breeze. It does not guide you toward a destination. It dissolves what kept you from seeing the path. Because the truth is, you were already on that path. You were never lost. You simply didn't realize it. The deepest truth is not something you need to learn, but something you must release. Release the old images of yourself. Release the definitions used to mask uncertainty. Release the expectations imposed on yourself and the universe. In letting go, you lose nothing. You become more whole, lighter, truer. This knowledge has been preserved in the temples of Egypt, in the stone towers of Tibet, in the whispers by rivers among African tribes, in the dreams of healers in the Andes. Yet no place is its source. Because it does not dwell in stone, it lives in the awakening consciousness within you. You have heard it before, perhaps in a moment that seemed coincidental, a stranger's gaze that quieted your heart, a recurring dream with inexplicable clarity, a deep sense of familiarity with someone you just met. These are not illusions. They are intersections of soul memory layers, where deeper wisdom is trying to remind you something greater is waiting for you to remember. And if you are hearing this with an open heart, then perhaps that door has already begun to crack open. You don't need to understand it all. You only need to feel that something is stirring within. Because real transformation doesn't come from reasoning, but from living awareness. Not, I think I am the light, but I begin to feel this light is alive within me. The 33rd degree of knowledge is not here for you to attain anything. It's here for you to shed what was never truly you. The definitions, the mental structures, the beliefs embedded from the outside, that you are limited, that you must prove yourself, that you must do something to be worthy. No, you have always been worthy. You are a unique expression of infinite creation, experiencing itself through the form of a human being. Once this is realized, you don't need to hold the universe. You only need to move in rhythm with it. And from that place, everything unfolds in ways you could never imagine, not because you control it, but because you've stopped resisting it. This wisdom doesn't ask you to change the world. It asks you to change how you show up in the world, because what you bring into each moment is your frequency. And that frequency, though invisible, is an invitation for a matching reality to appear. Like an instrument tuning itself to the song it emits, you can choose to live in any harmony you desire. But before reality changes, consciousness must change first. That's why you're here. Don't wait for a crisis to begin. Don't wait for proof to believe. Don't wait for someone to show you the way. The real question is no longer where to go, but what truth within me has always been right? And when that question is asked with enough stillness, the answer won't come from afar. It rises gently, like a wave, and you will know, not through thought, but through a feeling that defies words. That is when ancient knowledge becomes living memory, and you, instead of being the seeker, become the one who has found. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to become someone. You don't need to achieve anything. You only need to step back from what you thought you were, and stand still in the very presence that is breathing within you right now. The door does not open with hands. It opens with awareness. And when it opens, you will understand. You are not moving toward the light. You are the light. Not every door opens with thunder. Most of the sacred things in life arrive like a gentle breath. No noise, no attention, no need for proof. But to those who know how to pause long enough, who know how to be silent deep enough, that simplicity becomes the very place where all miracles are kept. And to perceive it, you don't need to be smarter, more talented, or more special. You only need to change how you see. Everything around you, every object, every moment, every person is a doorway. But if you look through the same old eyes, you'll only see what you already know. You'll label everything through memory, judge through habit, react through reflex. Like a film you've watched too many times, nothing feels new anymore. But if you're willing to set aside the lens of your programmed mind, what once seemed ordinary will light up in ways you never imagined. A ray of sunlight reflecting off a glass of water, a light brush of wind on your skin, a bird's song in the early morning. If you're in a rush, you'll miss them. But if you pause and become truly present, you'll see the light isn't there just to illuminate the glass. It's there to remind you of a greater light silently walking beside you. The breeze isn't there to cool your skin. It's there to remind you that something invisible is still touching you each day, and you've been too busy to notice. And the bird's song is not just a random sound. It's a living particle of a larger symphony, in which you too are an unheard note, waiting to be deeply listened to. The universe has never hidden the truth. It has only waited for an eye that knows how to see. Not an eye that seeks fault, comparison, or explanation, but an eye that looks as if for the first time. Like a child, unaware of names, yet able to feel the soul of what it sees. That kind of seeing needs no thought, yet it is vividly alive. No explanation, yet it strikes so deep it silences you, because it is no longer a gaze from the outside in, but from the inside out. The truth is, nothing is ordinary. No moment is meaningless. Only consciousness is asleep within the cycles of familiarity. You walk past miracles every day, but because you've seen them so often, you think you know them. And in that very "I already know" mindset, you lose the freshness of life in the moment. You live as if everything is repeating, when the universe, miraculously, never repeats anything even once. Each morning is a different being. Each sunset holds a hue that has never existed before. Each heartbeat, each breath, each glance is entirely unique. But to realize this, you must shift the position of the observer. Don't stand outside life, judging it. Step into it, like a river flowing into its own bed, like a ray of light passing through for no reason at all. True transformation doesn't occur in grand ceremonies. It happens in the tiniest moments you've lived fully. When you drink a glass of water and truly feel the coolness touch your throat, when you wash your hands and sense the stream carrying away something deeper from your mind, when you look into the eyes of a loved one and, for a second, no longer see their name, their role, or past conflicts, but only the light within them reflecting the same light within you. That is the sacredness within the seemingly ordinary. That is magic that needs no colors, only awakening. And then something strange will happen. When you see life as if for the first time, you'll find that everything starts to reflect that vision back to you. Trees will grow greener. Clouds will move as if conversing. Every object becomes a subtle companion, as if the universe is sending you messages through every flower, every stone, every beam of light that touches your sleeve. You don't need to go to a holy mountain, don't need to retreat from the world, don't need to study lofty philosophy, because everything you're searching for is already in front of your eyes, hidden in the smallest things, concealed within the old gaze, just waiting for you to turn it over with a new pair of eyes. Just like a dusty window, all it takes is a gentle wipe for the light to shine through. So it is with your consciousness. You don't need anything added, only to remove the layers of dust, the haste, the judgments, the mental clutter. And then you don't need to awaken, because you have always been awake, just obscured. And when that dust lifts, you'll realize every secret of the universe has already appeared in your life. You just hadn't seen it the right way. The outer world doesn't need to change for you to feel life. You only need to change how you show up in that world. And when you do, Every step becomes meditation. Every action becomes ritual. Every breath becomes prayer. No witness is needed, because life itself bears witness to your every vibration. And above all, you don't need to wait. Not for someday, not for some perfect state, not for a better version of yourself. No, you can see with new eyes right now. No more preparation, just the willingness to see and to truly behold. The question is no longer, how do I access higher knowledge? But rather, am I willing to look again at what I've overlooked with a fresh heart and an unconditioned gaze? If the answer is yes, then congratulations. You've just stepped into the limitless universe where all that is extraordinary is hidden within the very ordinary. Just as flowers only bloom under enough light, truth only reveals itself under a clear gaze. And clarity does not mean perfection. It means being free of past conditioning, free of bias, free of resistance. Only a pure openness remains. Look at your hands again, carefully, not to analyze but to truly feel. Perhaps you'll see something you've never seen before, not in your hands, but in the gaze itself. No flower blooms out of season, no star falls out of orbit, no raindrop touches the earth without belonging to a chain of operations more perfect than any mechanism humans have ever designed. The universe does not run on chance. It is built upon a system of laws, not man-made laws, but sacred laws, not rules imposed from the outside, but immutable principles embedded deep within every photon, every vibration, every silent heartbeat of life itself. Sacred laws cannot be broken, they can only be forgotten. No one is punished for forgetting them, but no one can escape the consequences of falling out of rhythm with them either. Because what you receive is not reward or punishment, it is the natural result of resonance. Just as sound only resonates when a string vibrates at the right frequency, life only flourishes when you step into alignment with these sacred principles. Some people call them the law of attraction, the law of cause and effect, the law of correspondence, the law of vibration, the law of rhythm, the law of polarity, and the law of limitation. But regardless of the names, they all tell the story of a grand design where everything, from the smallest to the largest, operates by the same invisible language, the language of cosmic order. The law of cause and effect is not a moral idea. It is structure. Every thought, every word, every action is a seed sown into the field of energy. And what you reap is not random, but an exact echo of the frequency you have emitted. Nothing is lost. Nothing is accidental. Only the delay in time makes you think things are unrelated. But the universe never forgets. Because it does not remember through memory, it remembers through resonance. The law of correspondence teaches, as within, so without, as above, so below. Therefore, when you change your inner world, the outer world mirrors it. You don't need to force circumstances, just tune your inner frequency, and correspondence will naturally occur. For the outside does not create reality, it only projects from within. The law of vibration states that everything is in motion, nothing is static. Even the most solid-looking object is a cluster of constantly vibrating energy fields. And this applies to your thoughts, emotions, and soul. Every thought you hold, every emotion you nurture, is a form of vibration. And this vibration is the invitation you send into the universe. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. The law of rhythm reminds us that everything in the universe oscillates in cycles. The moon waxes and wanes, tides rise and fall. Your life does the same. There are times of ascent, of descent, of opening, of closing. When you understand rhythm, you don't fight the wave, you learn to ride it. To know when to act, when to wait, that is the art of living in harmony with the laws of the universe. The law of polarity says that everything has its opposite, yet both sides belong to the same essence. Hot and cold are merely degrees of one energy stream. Light and dark are not enemies, they are the breath of life. When you understand this, you no longer fear suffering, you see it as the beginning point of the journey toward peace. You no longer hate collapse, you recognize it as the prerequisite for rebirth. The law of attraction, you've heard much about it. But few truly understand that it doesn't operate according to what you wish for, but according to the state you are living in. You don't attract what you desire. You attract what you believe is true. And belief is not in your words, it is embedded in your deepest vibration. The universe does not hear what you say, it feels what you emit. All sacred laws operate whether or not you're aware of them. Just like gravity keeps you grounded, even if you don't understand physics. But the miracle is this. Once you recognize these laws at work and learn how to flow with them, you enter into union with the foundational structure of reality. And at that point, you no longer try to control the world. You become part of its harmony. Like a musician who knows the rhythm, you don't create the song, you simply learn to play in time. Ancient wisdom was never a collection of theories, it was living application, and the great masters never taught you to perform miracles. They taught you to understand the essence of what is already in motion, and when you live in alignment with it, your life naturally becomes miraculous. Try observing yourself today. With every action you take, which law are you resonating with? What seed are you planting? What frequency are you emitting? What cycle are you in, rising, falling, still, or transforming? Are you resisting what you're meant to learn? Are you fearing what is simply the opposite pole of light? When you look through this lens, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become the one reading the invisible blueprint of your life. No one needs to be perfect to live in harmony with the sacred laws. You only need enough awareness to observe and enough humility to adjust. Each day you live is a symphony, each choice a note, each state a chord, and your entire life is the melody the universe is listening to. If you feel your life is fragmented, don't try to fix it from the outside. Ask yourself which law you may be living out of alignment with. Perhaps you're demanding results without sowing the corresponding seeds. Perhaps you're resisting a cycle that is meant to end. Perhaps you're holding on to a belief that contradicts your deepest desire. And what the universe needs is not for you to change your circumstances, but to recalibrate your resonance with the sacred flow. You don't need to memorize the names of the laws. You don't need to follow a specific school. You only need to live slowly enough, observe deeply enough, feel truthfully enough. The sacred laws are not far away. They are operating in the breath you just took, in the heartbeat you just heard, in the glance you just gave someone, in the way you walk, choose, and show up. And once you realize that, you will understand you have never been an outsider. You are a subtle part of this grand web. Everything you think, everything you feel, everything you do sends ripples into the whole. And when you begin to live consciously with that awareness, you no longer seek power, because you are already living inside it like a note that has just fallen into harmony with the great symphony of the universe. Everything you're living right now begins in a place no one can see. A fleeting image in the mind, a phrase unintentionally repeated, a passing emotion that lingers deeper than you realize. And then, like an invisible seed, it quietly sinks into the soil of your inner world, silently sprouting, no sound, no light, no one notices. But as days pass, you find yourself living in a strange reality where things that were once just thoughts have now become your life. It's not magic. It's not coincidence. It's a principle. The mind creates reality. Not in the way you imagine something and it instantly appears, but in a deeper way. What you repeatedly think about, what you emotionally revisit, what you deeply believe as truth sooner or later will manifest outwardly as experience. No need to force, no need to control. With enough time and belief, the mind brings the seed to fruition. Inside you is a garden. Every thought is a seed. But what determines whether it sprouts is not just its content, but the emotion that accompanies it. A mere thought does not create reality, but a thought repeated with strong emotion, fear, anxiety, longing, trust becomes a vibrational command sent into the universe. And the universe, like a neutral field, responds only and precisely to the frequency you've planted. If you believe you're lacking, unworthy, or always rejected, reality will mirror situations that confirm that belief. Not because the universe is against you, but because it is utterly loyal to the signal you emit. On the other hand, if you begin to feel that you are living in abundance, guided and loved, you will start to see doors open, not in the way you predict, but in the way you resonate. Reality is not shaped by what you wish for, but by what you're willing to believe is possible. Many people misunderstand this. They try to think positively, but deep down still carry doubt. They speak prayers, but their hearts are skeptical. They set goals, but their emotion is fear of failure. And then they conclude that the law of attraction doesn't work. But in truth, it's always working. It's just responding precisely to the true frequency you're broadcasting, not your words, but the vibration underneath them. Your mind is a gardener. It never stops working. Whether you're aware or not, whether you're in control or distracted with every passing second, you are planting something by how you think, by how you feel, by how you react. And if you don't consciously choose your seeds, the subconscious will choose for you from habits, from the past, from what others have planted in you that you never questioned. That's why every real change begins not with action, but with how you think about yourself. You can do many things, acquire many skills, read many books. But if deep inside you still believe you are small, limited, or undeserving, then all that effort will meet an invisible wall. A wall you built yourself from beliefs no one sees. Conversely, when you start changing your inner perception, everything outside will slowly begin to shift. No need to force, no need to fight. Just consistently adjust your inner state instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" You begin asking, "What am I thinking that is causing this to repeat?" You stop blaming circumstances and begin taking responsibility for the energy you're emitting. And in that very moment, you shift from being a victim to becoming a creator. No seed sprouts overnight, and no reality transforms instantly. But if you are consistent, if you are patient, if you are courageous enough to hold a higher image of yourself, even if the world around you does not yet reflect it, then, in time, reality must change. Not because you forced it, but because you changed your inner structure. And remember, it doesn't matter what you thought, did, or lived before. Every moment is a new opportunity. Every breath is a new beginning. Your mind does not imprison the past. It only needs a new signal to begin a new journey. And if today you plant a new belief that you are supported, that you are valuable, that you are connected to a power greater than yourself, then you have just sown a different seed, a seed strong enough to change the entire forest of your life. Do not underestimate the small things. A simple thought, "I am on the right path," if repeated daily, with gratitude and peace, can shift an entire season. A phrase, "I am loved, even when I'm not perfect," if truly believed, can dissolve years of self-judgment. Every seed you plant is a potential miracle, and your mind, when used wisely, is the most fertile soil in the entire universe. The world does not require you to be stronger, richer, or wiser. It only asks that you become more honest with yourself, because when you live true to the pure seed within, you no longer need to impress anyone, no longer need to compare, no longer need to control. You simply are, and that alone creates the deepest resonance with the flow of life. Start today by choosing a new seed, a small thought but with a high frequency, a gentle feeling but unwavering, an inner image that makes you feel connected. Repeat it, nurture it, protect it from the old thoughts trying to pull you back, and then trust. The universe is quietly arranging everything for that seed to bloom, not because you are better, not because you are special, but because you've dared to live in alignment with the sacred structure present in all human beings, the power to create from within. You don't need anything external to begin. Everything is already here. You only need to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask, "What do I want to plant today?" That answer is the future you're calling into being. It's not what you want. It's not what you say. It is what you become that determines what you attract. This is not poetic language. It is one of the foundational and unchanging principles of the universe. Everything is vibration. And it is that very vibration that forms the secret language through which reality responds to you. You do not live in a world shaped by surface actions. You live in a world formed by the deeper layer of energy that you emit moment by moment, thought by thought, breath by breath. Someone walks into a room without saying a word, and yet everyone senses their calm presence. Another person laughs a lot, says all the right positive things, but somehow makes the space feel uneasy. What creates the difference? Not words, not appearances, but vibration, that which no one can see with the eye, but everyone can feel with the heart. You cannot fake vibration, and you cannot force yourself into a higher frequency if, deep inside, fear, doubt, or old wounds are still lingering. But the beautiful truth is, you can transform your vibration, not by suppressing emotions, but by listening to them, understanding them, and releasing them. When you have the courage to face fear, you reclaim your power from it. When you are honest with your sorrow, you allow light to pass through. And each time you do this, you raise your vibration not through force, but through freedom. Your vibration is the energy field surrounding you, and the universe does not respond to prayers, it responds to the frequency you are truly living in. When you say you want love but are living in the energy of loneliness, doubt, and emotional closure, then what you attract is not love but more experiences that reinforce the belief, I am not loved. When you desire abundance but are vibrating with worry, scarcity, or fear of loss, that vibration draws more experiences to make you feel exactly that. You cannot trick the universe, but you don't need to. You only need to become honest and intentional with your vibrational state. Begin by observing, what frequency are you living in? What is the dominant emotion in your day? When you think about the future, what do you see? Hope or doubt? Openness or resistance? Peace or tension? The answers to these questions are your actual vibration and the invitation you're sending into the universal field. No one needs to be at a high frequency 24 hours a day. No one is asked to be vibrationally perfect. But you are invited to become aware of when your frequency dips low, not to judge yourself, but to gently guide yourself back to harmony, like an instrument that needs tuning, like a wave that needs cleansing. And each time you choose stillness over reaction, forgiveness over anger, trust over fear, you recalibrate your vibration. And with that, a new stream of reality begins to form. You don't need to know your exact frequency. You only need to look at what keeps repeating in your life, because repeated circumstances are the most honest mirror of the vibration you are holding. If you are consistently rejected, it's not someone else's fault. It is an invitation to revisit your core beliefs about your worth. If you often find yourself in scarcity or lack, it's not injustice. It's a signal to return to the feeling of enoughness right now and to practice the vibration of gratitude before the results even come. Vibration doesn't need to be proven. It is a force that stands on its own. When you truly believe you are loved, you don't need to force anyone to prove it. When you know you are abundant, you don't need to grasp for things. When you live in peace, you don't need to control. And that very state, that beingness, is the strongest magnetic field for all that resonates with it. The question is no longer, what should I do to get what I want, but who must I become for it to come to me naturally? Because reality is not summoned by isolated action, but by consistent vibrational alignment. When you shift that state, you'll be surprised to see the world begin to change, not because you forced it, but because you've attuned yourself to a different layer of reality. A simple way to raise your vibration: live with gratitude. You don't have to wait for something big to happen. Be grateful for this breath, for the light shining through the window, for the hand that still moves, for the fact that you are still here, still given the chance to reset, to renew, and to become a higher resonance version of yourself. Each moment of gratitude lifts your frequency. Each act of love toward yourself or others expands your magnetic field. And in that state, you no longer need to seek. Everything good will slowly begin to seek you. No one is denied miracles. No one is locked out of higher layers of reality. Only misaligned vibrations prevent them from arriving. And that is good news, because it means you can always recalibrate. You can always return. You can always begin again with a new thought, a new emotion, a new choice. You don't have to do something grand. Just choose the higher resonating option in this moment. And if you can stay honest with yourself in that way, if you live consistently from the vibration of love, gratitude, trust, and serenity, you will see what you've never seen before. Doors that once felt locked will open. People on the same frequency will appear. Opportunities will arise from places you never expected, because you are no longer living as one who is searching. You live as a broadcast station, and the entire universe begins to align itself to the music you are transmitting. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you become. and you become what you repeat every day in thought, in emotion, in energy. So today, what music are you sending out? It is not the intellect that determines the soul's direction, it is the heart. It is not logic that leads you to the right path, it is emotion. In a universe woven from energy, it is the frequency of emotion, not the stream of thoughts, that becomes the original vibration shaping the reality you live in. You are not a product of what happens. You are a product of how you feel about what happens. The heart is not a symbol of weakness. It is the strongest electromagnetic center in the human body, with a field that radiates far beyond the brain. And more importantly, the heart is a gateway. Not a gateway to somewhere distant, but a return to the right path, to the natural rhythm, to the guidance of an intelligence far greater than you realize. And to connect with that path, you don't need more knowledge or sharper reasoning. You need to listen to emotion like a traveler in the desert relying on a compass to stay on course. Emotion is not a byproduct. It is the purest data the soul sends to you. Every feeling carries a message. Each one signals whether you are in alignment or out of sync with your true essence. When you feel light, joyful, peaceful, inspired, that is when you are riding the current of the right direction. When you feel heavy, doubtful, lost, or drained, that is the sign that you've veered off the natural flow. The truth is, you don't need to ask anyone out there what the path is. Your heart always knows, and it speaks through emotion. But most of the time, you've grown used to being led by the voice of the mind, of fear, of other people's expectations, of old beliefs, and in that process, you overlook the most subtle signal, the voiceless but unmistakable language of your heart. Emotion is energy in motion. If you suppress it, it doesn't disappear. It simply sinks deeper and silently recreates matching circumstances. Unacknowledged anger becomes illness. Unreleased sadness turns into dark clouds that influence poor decisions. On the other hand, when you allow emotion to flow, not identifying with it, not resisting it, it carries you back to freedom. There is no such thing as a bad emotion, only emotions that haven't been acknowledged. And when you dare to sit with your feelings, like a truthful companion, you'll witness something miraculous. The pain begins to melt, not because you analyzed it, but because you were fully present with it. In that moment, you enter your true vibrational state, where all masks fall, and inner truth begins to speak. The heart needs no reason to love. It needs no logic to be moved. It only asks that you pause long enough to hear the beat you've forgotten. And in that rhythm, if you are still enough, you'll hear the answer you've been seeking all along. Emotion is not merely reaction, it is creative energy. Those who live from elevated inspiration don't need to force themselves, yet they create powerful changes around them. Because they don't act from duty, but from connection. They don't speak because they must, but because the heart urges them. They don't live to be right, but to be in resonance. It is that resonance that creates true impact, not status, not credentials, not eloquent words, but genuine emotion transmitted without display, yet felt by all. And if you live from that place, you will no longer ask how to attract, because your very presence becomes the attraction. But to reach that vibrational layer, you must do something both simple and difficult. Be honest about the emotion you are carrying. Don't paint over it with thoughts. Don't judge it. Don't try to swap it for a more positive one. Just look directly, like embracing the inner child, scared, wounded, confused, and say, "I'm here with you." When you no longer resist emotion, energy begins to move, and where there is movement, there is life. The heart is the first organ to beat when you are born, and it is the last to fall silent when you leave. In between, it is always there, never abandoning you, never judging, never refusing. It only asks one thing: come home. And when you live from the heart, decisions become lighter. You no longer calculate gains and losses. You don't need to weigh every argument. You only need to ask, does this make my heart open or close? The answer doesn't come from the mind, but from a fleeting emotion that is profoundly accurate. Each person is born with a unique frequency. No one is exactly like another. And so, your emotional compass is also one of a kind. What resonates for others may not be meant for you. But if you are honest with your compass, even if others don't understand, even if the mind resists, you will still walk the right path. There is no universal formula. But one thing is always true. True joy never deceives you. Where there is inspiration, there is life. Where there is life, there is guidance. So instead of seeking right or wrong, seek, does it resonate or not? The heart does not know how to lie. And don't be afraid if you ever feel lost. Because every heartbeat, every emotion is a signal. When you learn to return and listen, you will never be off course for long. The heart is the compass. And the true compass doesn't point north. It points home to the place within you where all journeys begin, and the only place you ever truly belong. The world does not reflect objective truth. It reflects you. Not the version of you playing a social role, not the image you project outwardly, but the true energetic state you carry within. Whatever you are seeing in the outside world, whether people, circumstances, successes, or challenges, is a temporary expression of the inner map within you. Just as a mirror has no form of its own but always faithfully reflects the face before it, reality does not create its own scripts. It simply copies the energy you emit. This isn't meant to make you feel guilty about what happens in your life. It is meant to open a door to empowerment. If you change within, the outside will change accordingly. Not instantly, not always in the way you expect, but certainly, steadily, and deeply, because that is the immutable principle of energetic reflection. And the beautiful part is, you don't need to control reality. You only need to return inward and adjust. If you find yourself constantly surrounded by critical people, it's not coincidence. Perhaps there is a silent inner voice within you still judging yourself. If money always seems to slip away, it's not bad luck. Perhaps you carry an unconscious sense of guilt about receiving. If you always have to fight to be loved, it's not because others are heartless. Perhaps you haven't yet believed that you are worthy of love, even without doing anything to earn it. A mirror does not analyze. It only reflects. The world doesn't judge you either. It simply sends back the exact frequency you emit, not through words, but through dominant emotions, core beliefs, and your deepest vibrational state. And because it is completely honest, it becomes your most powerful tool for self-recognition. You don't need a prophet. Just observe what's repeating in your life, and you'll see a clear picture of your current inner state. Many people think they're being controlled by circumstances, but in truth, they're seeing themselves in the mirror without realizing it, like someone frowning at their reflection and trying to smooth the mirror's surface. Impossible, because the image in the mirror doesn't decide for itself. It only follows. And when you change how you see yourself, the world, in a mysterious way, begins to shift too. You don't need to change others. Just ask, what part of me are they reflecting that still needs healing? You don't need to fight your circumstances. Just ask, what energy am I emitting that keeps this in place? And when you can answer honestly without judgment, without blame, you step into the role of the creator, not through force, but through conscious transformation. Each time you choose a higher thought, not out of false positivity, but from a true desire to live in harmony with your soul, you recalibrate the signal you send into the mirror of the universe. And that mirror, faithful as ever, will send back a new version of reality to match. It's not magic, it's mechanics. And when you understand this mechanism, you no longer have to live at the mercy of randomness. The outer world is not the goal, it's the indicator. It tells you where you are on the map of awareness, not so you can drown in analysis, but so you can adjust your direction. Like a sailor reading a compass, not to complain, but to steer. And if you steer from within, the waves will change course. Some people enter your life just to reflect a lesson. Some events don't come to harm you, but to guide you back to center. Some challenges are not punishments, but giant mirrors showing that you're ready for the next transformation. And when you see everything as a reflection, you no longer see yourself as a victim. You become the awakened observer, and from that place, you reclaim your full power. No one out there has the right to define you. But if you still hold limiting beliefs within, you will attract people and situations that reinforce those limitations, not because they're right, but because you haven't yet adjusted your inner map. And when you begin to shift your frequency to self-worth, to gratitude, to self-love, you'll notice you no longer attract the old versions of the world. They fade not because you push them away, but because you no longer resonate. The external mirror is the result. You are the cause. And this is not a burden, it is liberation. Because if you are the cause, you have the power to choose again. You have the right to rewrite the script. You have the freedom to release old definitions and begin living from a new essence. No need to be perfect. No need to know how everything will turn out. You only need to be honest enough to say, I accept responsibility for the energy I carry. From that moment, the mirror will begin to change form. Not because you begged, but because you've altered the input. And no mirror dares to disobey, because the universe has no preference, it only responds. That simplicity is what makes the law of reflection so pure, and it is this very purity that opens the door to wonder for those who dare to change from within. Look at the world today as you would look into a mirror in the morning. No judgment, no panic, no pretending. Just simply observe and, if needed, change the source. Because you are not living in a random world. You are living in a faithful mirror, and the only thing you ever need to shift the scenery is to change the way you see yourself. The universe does not speak in words like humans do. It doesn't send messages, write letters, or knock on your door in the ways you're used to, but it always responds, always whispers, always leaves traces, not through sentences, but through symbols, not through vocabulary, but through imagery. A bird appearing just as you're in doubt. A number repeating itself too often to be coincidence. A situation unfolding as if prearranged by unseen hands. That's not coincidence. That's language. Symbols are how the soul communicates when words no longer suffice. And the universe, like a silent, loving mother, uses them to guide you back to the path. Whether you believe in spirituality or not, you are already living inside a network of symbols. Nothing is meaningless. Nothing is purely random. Everything that happens contains a layer of meaning beneath its surface appearance. And when you learn to read that language, a new door of wisdom opens, one led not by logic, but by intuition. The ancients understood this well. That is why they recorded knowledge in symbols, used imagery instead of explanations, created myths, legends, sacred stories not to entertain, but to encode wisdom. A serpent is not merely a serpent. It's a symbol of transformation, of rebirth. A mountain is not just a mountain. It's a symbol of the inner journey, of rising from the low to the high. An eye is not only to see. It's a symbol of deep awareness, something that sees through all masks. When you understand symbols, you begin to hear what the universe is saying. A strange dream, a recurring image in your mind, a strange feeling when meeting someone. Not random. It's a form of message. And if you pause long enough to feel, not to analyze, not to interpret, you'll touch something deeper than language. Wordless understanding. The universe hides nothing. It simply waits for you to be quiet enough to see. If you're too busy chasing logic, you'll miss what is being revealed. But when you begin to observe not with your eyes, but with presence, you'll notice that everything is speaking to you. A flower falling just as you're thinking about letting go. A lightning flash as you're praying for clarity. A number sequence matching the birthday of someone you miss. The universe doesn't speak, but it speaks through image. Symbolic language does not need explanation. It needs feeling. And each person has their own dictionary, so a symbol may mean something different for every soul. What matters is not the objective meaning, but the living meaning in your heart at that moment. That is the real message, and you don't need any interpreter other than your own intuition. You know, because when a symbol touches you, you don't hesitate. You recognize it deep within. Pay attention to what repeats, what captures your attention in an unusual way, what makes your heart ache a little or flutter gently. That's when the universe is knocking. And when you respond by pausing, acknowledging, and expressing gratitude, a conversation begins. Not through words, but through mutual presence. You no longer feel alone in the vast universe, because you realize you are being watched over, reminded, guided in the most subtle, beautiful way. There is no moment without symbols. But there are certain phases when they become more vivid, when you're at a crossroads, when your soul is about to shift consciousness, when you're on the verge of missing an important lesson. The universe does not force you, but it leaves signs, like a guide who never touches you, but places small stones along the path, so that if you observe, you'll know you're not lost. A rainstorm doesn't come just to wet the earth. It may come as a symbol of cleansing. A delayed bus isn't merely an inconvenience. It might be a signal that you're meant to slow down. A stranger's smile arriving just as you're losing faith, not an accident, but a gentle voice saying, "You are not alone." And in moments like these, you touch the depth of life where everything is interwoven by an invisible thread. Symbols don't replace action, but they guide action. When you live with attentiveness, seeing the world as a stream of constant messages, you act from a deeper place. No more rushing, no more guessing, but action with direction, with intuition, with connection. And when such action aligns with the rhythm of symbol, it carries power not from effort, but from resonance with a higher frequency. The physical world is not the only layer, it's merely the surface. Beneath it is the symbolic layer where every event has two levels: what happens and what is being conveyed. The awakened ones see both. They don't stop at appearances. They don't get distracted by phenomena. They always ask, "What is this trying to tell me?" And when you live this way, every day becomes a dialogue with the divine. No voice needed, just awareness. If you've ever felt lost, stop and ask, is there a symbol being sent that I've overlooked? If you've ever felt stuck, return to your dreams, the little signs, the images that linger in your mind. Don't try to decode them. Let intuition read them for you. Because the universe does not ask you to understand everything. It only asks you to recognize that you're being nudged. You only need to do something, even the simplest thing, with full presence, and you are already practicing ritual. Not a religious ritual, but the ritual of awakened living. Try starting your day not with your phone, but with a conscious breath. Just one breath given your full attention. Feel the air moving in and out. Feel life continuing to flow through you. That is not an exercise. That is a ritual. Or when folding your blanket after sleep, don't do it just to be done. Fold it as if you are caring for a sacred space where your body rested, where dreams passed. The difference is not in the action, but in the inner state that accompanies it. Every action carries a frequency, and that frequency does not depend on the size of what you do, but on the quality of your mind while doing it. You can wash the dishes as a boring chore, or you can wash them as a ritual of purification. You can walk just to get somewhere, or you can walk as if every step is a silent prayer. You can cook merely to feed, or you can cook as if transferring love from your heart into each dish. And that is when creative energy flows, not because you're trying to be creative, but because you've become a natural channel for that flow. In the modern world, we are pulled into speed. Everything must be fast, efficient, result-driven. But creativity cannot survive in haste. It doesn't flow in noise. It needs space, even just a few seconds, for you to truly be here. And that space, miraculously, is where your soul begins to be heard. Not through words, but through a sense of quiet, subtle, yet utterly real presence. Even preparing a glass of water can become a portal of connection if you do it with gratitude for the water to drink, the hands to hold, the body to nourish. Daily rituals don't need to be complicated. They don't require religious formality. They only require a return to the present, a return to your soul. And when you begin to light up the small moments of your day this way, you are sending a clear signal to the universe. I am ready to become a co-creator. And from that point, other doors slowly begin to open. Here's the secret. You don't need to wait for inspiration to act. It is intentional, consistent, small, patient actions that invite inspiration, like reviving a stream that seemed dry, not by shouting or digging deep, but by gently brushing aside the debris, clearing the way for water to begin flowing again. In the same way, small daily rituals clean the dust of unconscious habits so that pure creative force can move through. And when you live at that pace, you'll find you're no longer dragged by busyness. Instead, you begin to reshape your rhythm of life. Not to do less, but to live more deeply. Every task, driving, typing, sweeping the floor, clipping your nails, becomes a form of meditation, a kind of art, a silent conversation with the creative energy that's always waiting for you to return. You don't need to create something groundbreaking. Just live creatively, meaning allow each moment to be renewed, to be illuminated, to be done with heart. And when you live like that, you are creating an energetic environment where beauty begins to bloom from the most ordinary things. Daily rituals are also how you tend the connection to the sacred. You don't need to wait for church, temple, or special occasions, because there is no place more sacred than this very moment. No altar more holy than your heart being fully present. And if you spend a few minutes each day to light a candle, to press your palms together, to listen to a wordless song, to gaze at the sky with gratitude, you become a keeper of the flame, a flame that keeps awareness alive in yourself and in the world. No one else can live your life for you, but you can turn your living into a sacred symphony. No need for a complex melody, just a genuine rhythm, just the light of presence, just a heart willing to place the soul into each small task. And that is when you touch the greatest creative force in the universe, not through effort, but through humble presence. Think back to all the times you believed you weren't good enough, not worthy, incapable of success, or undeserving of love. Old phrases like, "That's just how I am," "That's not meant for me," "People like me can't possibly." These are all limiting beliefs, disguised beneath the cloak of realism. And each time you silently repeat those thoughts, no matter how softly, you are etching an invisible command into the operating system of your life. The universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you believe is possible. If you believe you are always lacking, you will attract situations that reinforce that lack. If you believe no one truly hears you, you will walk into conversations that leave you feeling invisible, not because life is unfair, but because your frequency has issued a command, and your life cannot truly shift until you are willing to look directly at the belief you live with every day. Changing belief does not come from mechanical affirmations. You cannot say, "I am wealthy," if deep inside you still believe you don't deserve abundance. What's needed is a sincere conversation with yourself, one that goes to the root. Where did this belief come from? Who planted it in me? Is it still true? Most limiting beliefs were formed in childhood from words spoken by adults when you were too young to defend your own awareness. They are rooted not because they are powerful, but because you have never challenged them. And when you start asking questions, you open the first crack. You no longer default to, "I'm indecisive," "I always fail at relationships," "I just can't learn new things." Instead, you begin asking, "Is that really still true for me today?" The very act of allowing another possibility to exist is already the beginning of freedom, because all transformation begins by changing how you see yourself. Imagine belief as a pair of glasses. If you wear grey lenses, the world will always seem gloomy. If the lenses are blurry, everything will appear vague. The issue is not with the world, it's with the glasses you wear. And if you never take them off, you may spend a lifetime mistaking a filter for reality. But when you pause not to judge but to observe, you begin to realize what you thought was you is actually just a collection of ideas you've grown used to believing. Releasing limiting beliefs is not a battle, it is a return. A return to the truth that you don't need anyone's approval to know you are worthy. You don't need perfect circumstances to live as who you truly are. You simply need to peel away old concepts, unconscious judgments, and self-imposed definitions to see what's always been there, your inherent freedom. And on a deeper level, you'll come to see this. No one can grant you liberation but yourself. Whether it's a teacher, a saint, or a great truth, all they can do is reflect what you already hold inside. If you don't believe change is possible, even angels can't help you. But if you believe you have the right to live a different life, even the most difficult circumstances will begin to yield. This path is not easy, because limiting beliefs don't live on the surface. They lie deep in the subconscious, controlling you without your awareness. But don't let that discourage you, because even the smallest light of awareness is enough to begin dissolving the dark. Every time you pause in the middle of an old reaction and choose again, even if it's choosing silence over reaction, gentleness over self-blame, trust over doubt, you are reprogramming the operating system of your soul. And the most beautiful part is, you don't need to wait until you're perfect to live freely. You just need to begin from where you are, with honesty and small courage, day by day, choice by choice. A different word, a different action, a different perspective. Bit by bit, you will begin to unlock your true self, like a shell slowly cracking open so that light can pour through. Freedom isn't about having all the answers. It's about no longer being ruled by old answers that are no longer true. You don't need to believe in something absolute. You just need to stop believing what has kept you small and open yourself to a larger, more vibrant, more loving belief. And that, though it may seem small, is the very miracle. You've always held the key, not to open some door outside yourself, but to reopen the room within the one you once locked because of fear, pain, or doubt. And when you return to that room, you are no longer the same person. You enter it as one who has awakened not to blame, but to heal, not to repeat, but to rewrite. And that is the moment the entire universe begins to respond to you in a completely new way. Not everything happens by chance. Some things occur at exactly the right time, in exactly the right way, with exactly the right person, as if the universe is whispering something into your ear, a sentence you overhear on the street, a book that falls open to the exact page you need, a long-lost friend reaching out just when you're about to collapse. These are not accidents. These are synchronicities. And if you are quiet enough to listen, you will realize these coincidences are not merely luck. They are messages from the unseen realm, guiding you back to your path. Synchronicity is when the stream of intelligence behind the fog of daily life begins to reveal itself, not through logic, but through direct experience. You feel guided not by someone outside, but by an invisible force within, what many call intuition, signs, or soul light. And the strange thing is, the more deeply you connect with yourself, the more often these coincidences happen more precisely, more deeply, more meaningfully. Because in truth, you and the universe are not separate. You are part of a vast web of life where every thought, feeling, and vibration affects the whole, like ripples on the surface of a lake. When you think of someone with love, you create a vibration that can reach them even if you don't call, don't text, don't speak. When you're sad, the outer world seems grey. When you're joyful, everything around you appears to smile. And when you enter a state of harmony, the external world begins to reflect your inner state with astonishing precision. Synchronicity cannot be controlled, but it can be invited. You cannot force a sign to appear, but you can live in a way that makes them easier to find, by slowing down, softening, becoming more attentive. When you live in awareness instead of just reacting, you begin to hear other wavelengths vibrating through reality. A song plays at the very moment you think of giving up. A roadside sign reminds you of a forgotten decision. A child looks straight at you, piercing through your masks. And suddenly, you feel the call to return to something pure and essential. No one else can interpret the language of synchronicity but you. The same event may carry entirely different meanings for two people, because synchronicity is a private dialogue between your soul and the invisible wisdom. So instead of asking others, "What does this mean?" pause and ask, "What does my heart feel when this happens?" For feeling is the most accurate compass in the unseen world. You don't need to become mystical, just live with sacred curiosity, a kind of curiosity that isn't frantic, but soaked in trust that everything arriving carries a message. Sometimes you won't understand right away, but if you hold it in your heart, like a puzzle piece waiting to find its place in the larger picture, eventually it will reveal itself, sometimes in a week, sometimes in a year, but always at the moment you are ready. Synchronicity is also a reminder that you are not alone. In moments when all logic seems to collapse, something small occurs, a glance, a symbol, a strange voice, and you know something is walking with you, silently but firmly, not to decide for you, but to help you remember that every answer already resides within you, just need an external nudge to awaken what has been dormant. When you open yourself to synchronic wisdom, you begin to see the world differently. Everything becomes symbolic. Every encounter becomes meaningful. Every event, whether good or bad, becomes part of a grander play, more perfect than you imagined. You no longer feel lost. You feel led step by step across roads that once seemed random, but now feel mysteriously precise. Synchronicity also helps you make decisions. When you are uncertain and a sign appears, words, a symbol, a glance, you know you've received confirmation. But to hear these affirmations, you must slow down and nourish an intimate relationship with your inner space, because if your mind is full of noise, even if the universe shouts, you will not hear. Importantly, synchronicity is not only a sign that you're on the right path. Sometimes it is a gentle warning that you're veering off course, a recurring error, someone who reminds you of your limits, a sudden delay with no reason. Look closely, not to panic, but to ask yourself, what am I not seeing clearly? What am I ignoring? For true synchronicity not only affirms, it adjusts, always for your highest good, even when you don't yet understand why. Nothing is trivial. Nothing is meaningless. When you live in deep connection with life itself, even a falling leaf, a breeze passing by, or a short melody can become a message from the deeper layer of cosmic intelligence. And the beautiful truth is, you don't need to go anywhere to connect with it. You just need to become present, breathe fully, and believe that life is not blind. Synchronic wisdom does not ask you to become superstitious. It invites you to become awakened, awake in a world of symbols, where everything carries meaning if only you choose to look through the eyes of the soul. And when you live that way, you don't just see signs, you become a sign for others. A quiet light, silently reminding them that there is a deeper layer shaping all things. The life you are living today is not the result of luck, fate, or random circumstances. It is the vivid expression of what has been planted in the subconscious, the silent yet powerful realm beneath the surface of your conscious mind. The subconscious does not judge right or wrong, does not question, does not argue. It only knows one thing: to receive and to repeat. Whatever you believe, whatever you repeat, whatever you feel deeply will take root there, and from there, construct the operating system of your entire life. If you've ever felt stuck in the same kind of failure, the same pattern of relationships, or a familiar loop of emotions even after trying to change your external world, then the issue may not lie in your circumstances, but in the deeply ingrained patterns in your subconscious. Instead of trying to reshape reality, what you truly need is an inner restructuring, because every external experience is but a reflection of that internal framework. Reprogramming the subconscious is not an impulsive act. It is a process deep, slow, and one that requires patience and consistency. Imagine the subconscious as a garden. If you want to grow a new kind of tree, you can't just scatter seeds. You must first clear out the weeds, loosen the soil, remove the hardened rocks, and then carefully plant new seeds. It's the same in the inner life. Before affirming something positive, you must become aware of the negative programming silently operating within you. Beliefs like, I'm not worthy, I'm always abandoned, life is a battle, these don't originate in the present. They were recorded early on, when you were too young to choose your own perspective. Words spoken, glances exchanged, repressed emotions all became subconscious commands. And once imprinted, The subconscious will continue to create circumstances to validate those beliefs, not because it resents you, but because it's simply doing its job, repeating what it knows. So the first step in reprogramming is to become radically honest with yourself. Observe not to blame, but to understand. When you overreact to a minor situation, when you fall into anxiety for no clear reason, when you procrastinate on what you know is good, ask yourself, what is this revealing about how I was previously programmed? Because every unconscious reaction is a trace of a deeper belief running beneath your awareness. And that very honesty, without judgment, without defensiveness, cracks open the first gap for awareness to enter. When you can name an old program, you are no longer its victim. You become the observer, and from there, the recreator. You can begin to choose again, but not just with your intellect, with the totality of your emotions, imagery, sounds, and lived experience that you want to be immersed in. One of the most powerful ways to reprogram the subconscious is to create new inner images, clear, emotionally rich, and frequently repeated. If you want to live a life of abundance, you must visualize yourself living in that state, not as fantasy, but as a reality vibrating in every cell. If you want healing, you must see yourself whole, loved, at peace, as if it has already happened. Because the subconscious doesn't distinguish between real and imagined, it only receives what is most emotionally charged. Repetition is not coercion, it is enriching the new emotional experience until it becomes more familiar than the old one. Each day, you carve out a quiet moment to breathe, to visualize, to feel, and to plant the new reality you desire to live. And when you do this consistently, you will begin to notice a shift within. Not a fleeting excitement, but a deep and stable shift, as if your entire being is being reconfigured at the roots. Reprogramming the subconscious also means aligning your actions with what you're planting. You cannot program confidence while continuing to choose avoidance. You cannot program self-love while your daily actions still reject yourself. Every action, no matter how small, is a signal to the subconscious. This is what I believe to be true. And when that signal is strong, continuous, and free of contradiction, the subconscious registers it and begins supporting you in creating a matching reality. Remember, you do not have to be perfect to begin. You just need to begin from exactly where you are. One small step, one new choice, one fresh thought. Little by little, the old structure softens and the new one takes shape, not through force, but through love, awareness, and steady dedication. You are not fighting yourself. You are helping yourself return to your original essence, where you are not defined by the past, but led by a living potential. And the most miraculous part is, when the subconscious is reprogrammed, everything in your outer life adjusts accordingly. Relationships shift, new opportunities arise, burdens fall away. Not because you control the external, but because you've changed your internal frequency, and the universe, like a mirror, simply reflects that back. No one is ever too late to begin again. No one is born that way and doomed to stay the same. What may be missing is the realization that the power to reprogram your life has always been in your hands, not needing anyone's permission, not needing perfect conditions. All it takes is your willingness to turn inward, clear the old ground, and plant again with love, with clarity, and with the unwavering belief that a new life truly can begin from within you. On the path of creation, there are two forces that seem to oppose each other, yet are two arms of the same dance: action and surrender. One side is the power of will, the courage to begin, to do, to push energy into the world. The other is the art of trust, the willingness to release, to believe that what has been sown will find its own moment to blossom. When these two forces harmonize, we no longer create through effort, but through balance, where beauty and truth naturally emerge, without force. Everything in the universe follows this rhythm. A star is born from the collapse of gravity, but it only shines when it reaches a state of equilibrium between inward pull and outward pressure. Too much gravity, it collapses into a black hole. Too much pressure, it disperses into gas and dust. Likewise, if we only act without knowing how to let go, we become swept into a storm of control, anxiety, and obsession with outcomes. But if we only surrender without taking action, creative energy becomes trapped in an unmanifested dream. Action is the voice of the soul in the material world. It is the embodiment of faith, the way consciousness brings an idea from the unseen into the seen. But surrender is the magic that makes every action truly effective. Nothing flows when we hold on too tightly. When sowing seeds, the farmer does not sit and stare at the soil to urge the sprout. He trusts that nature has its own law. In the same way, when we act, we must place our full attention and presence into that moment, then step back, trust, and allow what has been planted to find its own path to fruition. Surrender is not giving up. It is the highest expression of faith. When we trust deeply enough, we no longer need to control. When we love deeply enough, we no longer need to possess. And when we understand the universe clearly enough, we know that everything has its own order, even if invisible to the eye. The universe does not operate on human schedules. It moves to the rhythm of energy, and energy only responds to resonance. If we cling to outcomes, we are sending the frequency of lack. But when we release, we emit the frequency of trust. And that very frequency opens doors that once seemed impossible. In life, action and surrender are the two breaths of a single soul. One inhale, one exhale, one step forward, one step back, one hand shapes, one hand releases. A true creator is one who knows when to give everything and when to withdraw so that energy can complete its work. Like an artist who, after drawing the final line, knows when to stop because one more stroke could ruin the whole painting. Creation always has a sacred stopping point where the human hand becomes still so the infinite can finish the rest. If we look closely, we'll see that every great achievement in history was born from this rhythm. Scientists like Einstein or Tesla didn't just work intensely, they also knew when to step back, allowing their ideas to mature in stillness. In those moments of doing nothing, intuition, the most refined tool of consciousness, can finally speak. When the mind is trapped in a loop of constant action, clarity cannot enter. So surrender is the way space opens, allowing the miraculous to step in. Someone might ask, if I surrender, will I lose everything? The answer is, you'll only lose what was never truly yours. When you let go of fear, what remains is peace. When you release control, what remains is flow. When you release the ego, what remains is the power of the universe acting through you. In that moment, action is no longer, I am doing, but life is doing through me. And that is the highest level of creation, where the human becomes an instrument in the hands of life, not one trying to control it. Balancing action and surrender doesn't come from the mind, but from presence. When you are fully present, you know when to move and when to pause. You feel the rhythm of life like a musician sensing the pulse in a symphony. If you force in the wrong note, the music distorts. But when you match the rhythm, everything becomes so harmonious you no longer have to try. Life begins to move on its own, and you simply dance along. The dance of creation is not a battle between will and letting go. It is the harmony of two polarities, birthing the rhythm of the universe in each step, each thought, each breath. Action gives shape to the idea. Surrender allows that shape to be completed. One molds the form, the other allows it to settle. Just like the moon and the sun take turns to shine, action and surrender take turns guiding the soul through the endless cycle of creation. Finally, remember this: you cannot force a flower to bloom before its time, but you can prepare the soil, water it, offer sunlight, and then let go. That is not passivity, it is the profound wisdom of one who understands the law of the universe. Because everything arrives in its own perfect time when you are ready, not when you are impatient. Action plants the seed, surrender nurtures it, and life like a mother knows how to do the rest. In the moment you understand this dance, all tension dissolves. You no longer chase results, no longer fear failure. You act from joy, not from fear. You surrender from trust, not from exhaustion. And then, the most miraculous thing happens. Everything you once longed for begins to find you not because you demanded it, but because you have become its matching frequency. That is when the universe begins to dance with you in a perfect choreography called creation. Every reality that a human being is living begins from a single origin point, thought. But thought alone is powerless. It is merely a seed that has not yet been planted in the soil. Emotion is the soil where the seed is nurtured, warmed, and vibrated into life. And faith, that is the sunlight, the energy that activates all potential within. When these three elements unite, thought, emotion, and faith no longer operate separately, but become a unified stream, a gateway to instant reality. Thought is the direction of energy. Every time you think, you're not only generating a sequence of electrical signals in the brain, but also emitting a frequency of vibration into space. The universe does not listen to language, but it responds to vibration. If thought is the arrow, emotion is the force that launches it. A weak thought, lacking emotion, is no different than an arrow without a bow. But when emotion accompanies thought, whether it's joy, gratitude, or intense conviction, that energy is released with immeasurable power. However, emotion too is merely a wave if not anchored by faith. Faith is stability within vibration. It is the steady heartbeat of a heart that does not doubt. It does not arise from the intellect, but from a deep inner knowing that the universe always responds precisely to the frequency we emit. When you have faith, you no longer ask, "Is it possible?" but simply, "When?" It is at that point that reality begins to shift. In daily life, most people operate in the opposite way. They think one thing, feel another, and believe in something completely different. They think about abundance, but feel lack. They speak of love, but believe they are unworthy of it. And then they wonder why life reflects back that fragmentation, because the universe does not give you what you want, it gives you what you are. When your inner world is in contradiction, your outer world can only be chaotic. To unify thought, emotion, and faith is the shift from theory to power. For in the moment, you synchronize these three layers of energy. Your entire biological, spiritual, and energetic system vibrates as one. The heart and brain begin to synchronize. Electromagnetic waves within your body become harmonious, and the miraculous happens. What once required years of effort now comes to you naturally, swiftly, sometimes instantly. Consider a simple example. When you truly believe that you are healthy, when you feel the joy and gratitude of that health in the present moment, and when your thoughts are directed toward that state of well-being instead of fear of illness, your body immediately responds. Your cells receive new signals, hormones return to balance. The energy of self-healing is activated. This is not magic, it is the biology of belief. Research has shown that just a few minutes of strong gratitude can shift heart rhythms, improve immunity, and alter blood chemistry. But the key is that emotion must be in harmony with thought and lifted by faith. Faith is not blind belief, it is the deep certainty that you and the universe are one. When you have faith, you no longer beg, because you know everything is already available. When you think, you no longer doubt, because you understand that idea was planted in you for a reason. When you feel, you no longer fear loss, because you are living in the flow of abundance. Faith does not require evidence, it is the evidence. And when you live at that frequency, external evidence begins to appear. The gateway to instant reality opens when thought, emotion, and faith meet at the same point, the present moment. Because only in the now can you truly feel. The past is memory, the future is projection, only the present is where energy can operate. When you think of what you desire as if it has already happened, feel gratitude for it, and trust fully in its presence, you are generating a unified energy field. Within that field, the universe no longer distinguishes between what is coming and what already is. It only reflects the strongest vibration, and if that vibration is coherence, the result is instant. Practicing this does not require complex rituals. just a moment of stillness. Take a deep breath, place your hand on your chest, and think of what you desire with the gratitude that it is already yours. Feel the joy spreading through every cell and release all doubt. When your mind tries to interrupt with, "But what if it doesn't happen?" smile and reply, "It is already done." Because only when the mind is silent can faith speak. And when faith speaks, the universe listens. Many people believe that to create reality, they must strive, must repeat hundreds of affirmations daily. But true power does not lie in repetition, it lies in resonance. A single moment in which you genuinely feel what you desire as if it already exists is more powerful than 100 prayers without faith. Because in that moment, you no longer want, you are. And the universe can only respond to the state of being. When you unify thought, emotion, and faith, you step out of the role of a small creator and become the flow of the divine creator. You no longer see a boundary between yourself and what you desire. Love, money, health, peace, they are simply different manifestations of the same energy. And when you are in harmony with that energy, you do not need to pull it toward you, you are it. This is the secret that spiritual masters, consciousness scientists, and those who achieve the extraordinary all understand. The outer world is not where you go to change. It is a mirror. If you want to see a different image, you cannot fix the mirror, you must change the face being reflected. Unifying these three energies, thought, emotion, and faith, is how you change that face. And when the face changes, the mirror reflects an entirely new world. Finally, remember this: what you think is the seed, what you feel is the water, and what you believe is the sunlight. Not one of these elements can be absent. When all three meet, you become a garden of miracles. Reality is no longer something that comes from outside, but something that blooms from within. And when you live in that unification, every moment of your life becomes a living affirmation that you are the creator, and the universe always responds precisely to what you believe to be true. Imagine this entire universe as one vast body, and you are a cell within it. A small cell, yet never separate. It lives, breathes, and functions within the same stream of energy as all other cells. Every action, every thought, every vibration you emit radiates outward, creating ripples that affect the whole. And the whole, that is the unified field. It is not merely a philosophical idea or an abstract scientific concept. It is the true nature of all existence. Everything from photons to people, from distant nebulae to your heart, is immersed in this invisible sea of energy. When you breathe, the universe breathes with you. When you think, the energy field around you shifts. When you feel, each of those vibrations spreads not just within your body but beyond the boundaries of time and space. Quantum physics calls this non-locality, the understanding that there is no real separation between you and the world. When one particle in a system changes, another on the far side of the universe responds simultaneously. This means, when you change, the universe changes too. Look deeper, and you'll see that you're not just living in the universe is living through you. You are a temporary expression of infinite energy becoming aware of itself. Each of your thoughts is a wave in the ocean of consciousness, and those waves never disappear, they simply ripple outward, merging with others, forming the energy patterns we call reality. The universe does not function by randomness. It is an intricate web of interaction, and you, whether you realize it or not, are always an active part of that web. When you send out a loving thought, you don't just soothe someone, you soothe the entire energy field surrounding the planet. When you choose forgiveness, you don't just free yourself, you untie a knot in humanity's energy web. When you fear, get angry, or harbor doubt, that energy also radiates vibrating through space, impacting millions of other cells in the body of the universe. That's why no action is too small, no thought is meaningless. We often think the world changes through grand acts, wars, inventions, revolutions. But in truth, the universe transforms moment by moment as each being adjusts their vibrational frequency. A peaceful thought can calm the energy of an entire room. A heart overflowing with love can shift someone's behavior without a single word. And when enough individuals emit that vibration, the entire unified field changes its structure. That is the true mechanism of global evolution. The unified field knows no boundaries. It flows through matter, through time, through distance. It is the foundation of all connection where energy, consciousness, and information become one. Many scientists call this the quantum vacuum field, but ancient sages have long known it by other names: prana, chi, Holy Spirit, divine breath. Though the languages differ, they all describe the same living, intelligent, unified energy. And you, in every moment of your existence, are a part of it, continuously communicating with the whole through your vibration. So when you say, "I'm just a small individual," remember there is no such thing as small in the unified field. Just as a cell in the heart cannot separate from the heartbeat of the whole body, you cannot disconnect from the heartbeat of the cosmos. Every action you take, whether visible or silent, is inscribed into the collective symphony. If you live in love, that symphony gains a gentle melody. If you live in fear, the harmony becomes distorted. The universe does not judge, but it always mirrors truthfully. What you emit, you will see return, because you cannot send out a vibration without it touching you as well. Look at your own body. Billions of cells cooperating to keep you alive, each with its own role, yet all working together in perfect order. No cell functions for itself, it serves the whole. When a cell begins to act only for itself, it becomes cancer. It separates from the collective flow, drains energy from the rest, and in the end, destroys itself. Humanity, at the universal level, is no different. When we live in separation, competition, and fear, we behave like cancer cells in the body of the unified field. But when we love, cooperate, and recognize ourselves as part of the whole, we return to balance where life flows effortlessly and infinitely. Everything you do sends ripples. A smile can ripple through thousands of people. A single positive thought can shift the chain reactions of an entire system. Many experiments have shown that when a group of people meditate together in love and peace, crime rates in that area decrease significantly. That's no coincidence. It's a clear manifestation of interaction within the unified field. And it means this: you don't need great power or high status to change the world. Just shift your own vibration, and you've already changed a piece of the whole. Deep down, you are not the observer of the universe, you are the universe observing itself. Every boundary between me and the world is an illusion of perception. When you realize this, you will no longer feel lonely because you were never isolated. You will stop seeking validation from outside because you understand you've already merged with the eternal rhythm of the whole. And from that moment on, every action, every word, every breath becomes a prayer for the harmony of the cosmos. If you want to change the world, don't start with the external. Begin with the frequency within. Because the world is not some separate canvas you are looking at, it is the extension of the energy you emit. When you live in love, you become the outstretched arm of the unified field, reaching to touch every other soul. And as more and more people do this, those vibrations intertwine, resonate, and ignite a transformation that no system of power can stop. Remember, you are not just living in a body, you are living in a field. And that field is not outside of you, it moves through you, flows in every atom of your being. When you love, it vibrates with the rhythm of light. When you are angry, it thickens like smoke. And when you reach deep peace, it becomes transparent like a mirror reflecting the source itself. In every moment you are sending out waves, and those ripples will meet somewhere in someone's heart, on this planet, or across the universe. So choose the vibration you wish to send, because in the game of eternity, nothing is lost, only waves returning, whispering back to you, "You and I are one." And when you truly hear that, you will understand you were never small. You are the heartbeat of the whole, the echo of the unified field, and everything you do is composing the song of the universe. Imagine your life as a painting being created across infinite space. No one else is the painter but you. There is no pre-drawn sketch, no replica to compare it to. Only brushstrokes each choice, each thought, each action you make in every passing moment of the present. Each day, you add a new color, a new contour, a patch of light or shadow onto the canvas of your destiny. And the miraculous truth is, this painting is never fixed. It is always in motion, ever changing, and it mirrors the exact state of your consciousness at this very moment. Life doesn't arrive as a string of random events. It is the feedback of the choices you continuously make. Choice is not limited to the grand decisions, career paths, romantic partners, places to live, but hidden in the smallest details. How you see others, how you respond to a single word, how you think about yourself. Every reaction, every thought is a brushstroke, and though it may seem fine and insignificant, if repeated enough, it shapes the entire tone of the painting. Most of us go through life unaware that we are holding the brush. We let others guide our hand, let society mix the colors, let the past choose the shades of light and dark. But then comes a moment when we pause and truly observe the painting of our lives. We realize no one else can paint it for us. Not our parents, not our circumstances, not fate. These are only the background. The final image comes from us. When that awareness awakens, we become the true artist of our own lives. Every choice you make is an act of creation. When you choose forgiveness over resentment, you add a pure glow of light to your canvas. When you choose love over fear, you open a warm, radiant color that melts the shadows. When you choose trust over doubt, you create a depth of light where hidden details begin to emerge. On the other hand, when you choose fear, anger, or deceit, you paint a dull gray stroke that gradually veils the inner brilliance. But the beautiful truth is, no mistake is permanent. In the sacred art of living, no line is fixed. You need only choose again, and the new color will blend with the old, allowing the painting to be reborn once more. The universe doesn't judge the colors you choose. It only reflects them. If you paint with fear, you will see scenes that frighten you. If you paint with love, love will return to you from every direction. This is not magic, but the law of energy. The outer picture is simply a mirror reflecting the realm within, and the more aware you are of this, the more mindful you become with every brushstroke. Many people say, "I can't control my life." But the truth is, you are always in control, not through force, but through the frequency of your choices. Every choice is an energetic declaration. When you choose to see beauty on a rainy day, you change the entire vibrational fabric of that moment. When you choose gratitude amid hardship, you open a gateway for blessings to flow in. And when you choose to be honest with yourself, you allow your painting to come alive, no longer covered by the paint of pretense. Some people look back on their lives and say, "I've painted too many mistakes." But you were never truly wrong. Every misplaced stroke adds depth to the painting. Without darkness, light would never be radiant. Without the clumsy lines of the beginning, you'd never learn how to hold the brush with mastery. Life does not require you to be flawless. It only asks that you continue to create. Every breath is an opportunity to repaint a small piece. Every sunrise is a fresh blank canvas, and each moment you become conscious of your power to choose, that is the moment you reclaim the brush in your hands. Observe the masters of the arts. They are never afraid of being wrong. They understand that the life of a painting comes from the smudges, from the imperfect places. Likewise, the universe does not expect you to live without error. It only asks that you keep painting, keep creating, keep loving. For through every such act, it experiences itself through you. You are the hand of the divine holding the brush. And your life, though sometimes chaotic, sometimes dark, is always a piece of the great masterpiece of the whole. To become a conscious artist, you must learn to pause and see. Ask yourself, what color am I using today? If you feel heavy, it's because you're painting with fear. If you feel joy, it's because you're using the colors of trust. Changing the painting doesn't require starting over. Just change the color. Add a touch of gratitude, a bit of gentleness, a streak of light from your inner faith. That alone will shift the entire scene. Because the universe doesn't ask you to be perfect instantly, it only asks you to be aware in each stroke. You may not realize it, but every choice you make impacts the shared painting of humanity. When you live with kindness, you beautify the whole. When you walk with love, you inspire thousands of other souls. Your painting never stands alone. It is a swatch in the infinite mural of the cosmos, and every line you draw blends into that collective image. When you live truthfully, the world becomes slightly brighter. When you forgive, the darkness of humanity fades just a little. When you smile, the universe smiles with you. Your life is sacred not because it is perfect, but because it is unique. Never before has there been a painting like you, and never again will there be one the same. Every tear, every scar, every beam of light, they are all the motifs of a soul telling its own story. Don't hide the imperfect parts. They give the painting its pulse. For true art is not smoothness, it is authenticity. And your truth, whether quiet or fierce, is a sacred song only you can sing. Look at the painting of your life not to judge, but to love. Because if there is one thing certain in the art of the universe, it is this: no painting is ever abandoned. Every line, no matter how layered or overlapping, has its place in the whole. When you see your life through the eyes of a sacred artist, you no longer resent the past, no longer fear the future. You simply know that each day you are given a new brush and the power to choose the color. And in that moment you understand, life is not something that happens to you, it is something you are painting into being. And so, in silence, the painting continues to grow. No one can fully see its beauty, except the universe, the one who placed the brush in your hand. And each time you choose love, choose trust, choose light, the universe smiles, knowing a small part of itself you is painting something miraculous.